Hello everyone, my name is Rasdeep Singh and today I'm going to discuss my psychology presentation, 104 to Mr. Lee. So let us share my presentation. So there we go. So uh, I'm going to discuss psychology, which is experimental and non-experimental study. And I choose experimental study on no, social cognitive psychology. So here, this we can see that it's mainly considered through time and the basis of the people. So to begin with, for the overview, social cognitive psychology studies how exposure time influences stereotyping, exam, examining cognitive processes, memory, and attention to the understand how social judgment shape and maintain stereotypes. So moving forward, now the theoretical part, theoretical approaches. This study uses dominant social cognitive tradition, which views stereotype as a cognitive schemas simplifying reality. It hypothesizes that exposure to image for varying duration impacts stereotyping judgments with shorter exposure time resulting in more stereotyping judgments. All exposure stereotyping judgments with shorter exposure times resulting in more stereotypical judgment due to limited cognitive processing. So here, hypothesis is just shorter exposure time leads to stronger stereotyping judgments among participants, while certain stereotypes persistent over exposure condition due to underlying cognitive basis. As we can see, participation can be exposed in shorter time image duration with expert stronger stereotypical judgment compared to critical those for long-term courses. Moving forward, now research design. So here research design, the type is laboratory experiment, and the participants are young adults, 40 young adults aged between 18 to 28. So the procedure is participants were randomly assigned at different exposure time condition, which is zero point 0.5 seconds to 0.7 seconds to 0.7 seconds, and they are shown in images individual for a specific duration. After that exposure, participants were asked to make judgment about individual like related stereotypes. Researchers recorded the participants' responses. So the data collecting method dependent variable stereotypes judgment, which is quantitative data, independent variable exposure time, and categorical, which is 0.5, 0.7, 0.9, and data collection tools, which is questionnaire or rating scales on collect participants' judgment, and then analyze likely in both statistics tests. We can see the example of ANOVA to compare stereotyping judgments across the exposure time conditions. Moving forward, now the key findings through the experiment and conclusion, which is the study found that the participants exposed to shorter time duration, which is 0.5 seconds, exhibited stronger stereotypical judgment, suggesting underlying cognitive biases. Exposure time significantly influenced stereotyping, with shorter exposure leading to more pronounced stereotyping. Cognitive processes significantly shape initial judgment based on visual clues. So, moving forward, now, uh, So now the experiment study. So now the method. Uh, Now the different is laboratory experiment, research issued, and hypothesis examined. The issue is how does exposure time impact stereotyping? So the hypothesis one is participants exposed to shorter time duration will exhibit stronger stereotypic typical judgment. And hypothesis two is certain stereotyping will persist across all exposure conditions. So the advantages of it is control, casualty, and quantitative data, which is, and for control, researchers can manipulate exposure time precisely, and casualties establish a cause and effect relationship between exposure and time and stereotyping. And quantitative data provides quantitative data for statistical analysis. So the limitations of it is artificial settings, laboratory experiment may lack ecological validity. Simplified context does not capture real-world complexity. So moving forward, so yeah, here's some appropriate circumstances. So which is casualty control, laboratory, and quantitative data. In overall, experimental methods are ideal for researchers to establish a cause and effect relationship between variables by manipulating an independent variable and observing its impact on a dependent variable. They allow precise control over variables, eliminating or minimizing confounding factors, and are suitable for controlled environments like laboratory experiment method. Experimental methods also provide quantitative data for statistical analysis, providing numerical measurements. So, some examples are testing the effectiveness of a new drug by randomly assigning participants to treatment and control groups. And the second one is investigating the impact of different teaching methods on student performance. So now our first part of experimental study is done. Now the another part, which is non-experimental study, the construction of stereotyping within social psychology. So for the overview, the study explores social psychology, focusing on construction of the, stereotypes. It uses social representatives theory to examine how shared beliefs, symbols, and uh, cultural narratives shape our understanding of social phenomena. The researcher explored language, discourse, and collective representations to understand the sociocultural context of stereotyping. So now the theoretical approach. The study uses social representatives and ideology and discursive psychology. So overall, social representations theory to explore how stereotyping are not just used cognitive products but also social and collective representatives that just legitimize existing social and power relation within a society. It also examines how ideology shapes stereotyping, focusing on a complex system of beliefs that influences their construction and perception. So there are three hypotheses in this condition. The first hypothesis is stereotypes are not solely cognitive construction but also socially and collective influence. Second one is ideological factor play a role in stereotypes, and the third one is disclosure and languages contributes, as I discussed. So moving forward, now the research design. In this design, the theoretical review and synthesis. The procedure was researcher reviewed existing literature on stereotyping within psychology. They synthesized and compared the different theoretical approaches. Theoretical frameworks included social cognitive tradition, self-categorization theory, social representation theory, ideology, and discursive psychology. And the collect data collection method was dependent variable, independent variable, data collection rules, and last the analysis, which is quantitative analysis of theoretical perspective, their and their implications for understanding stereotypes. So here are key finding and conclusion for the study of non-experimental, which is stereotypes are not just cognitive construction but also socially and collectively influenced. Ideology stereotypes were justifying power relation, discourse, and languages contributes to their construction and maintenance. Understanding stereotypes requires considering social cultural context, collective representations, and ideological factors. Stereotypes are complex phenomena shaped by cognitive process and social influences. So, moving forward, now the method and some issues. So, first of all, the method is theoretical reviews, theoretical and review and synthesis. So, the research issue and hypothesis examined. Issue was how are stereotypes constructed within psychology, social psychology. So, hypothesis one is stereotypings are not solely individual cognitive constructs, but also socially and collectively influence. Hypothesis two, ideological factor play a role, and hypothesis three is discourse and language contributes to stereotype construction. So the advantages are holistic view, which is consider multiple theoretical perspectives, and then contextual understanding, which explores social, culture, and ideological dimensions, and at last, quality insights provide with qualitative insights. And there are some limitation in this as well, which is non-empirical data and theoretical abstraction. So the appropriate circumstances of non-experimental methods are explore, exploratory research, neuralistic settings, and quality insight, ethical construction. So in overall, non-experimental methods are valuable for exploratory research, studying behavior in natural contexts, providing rich qualitative insights, and avoiding manipulation in ethical situation. They are suitable for field studies and ethnography, capturing real-world complexity. For understanding cultural practices and social dynamics, makes non-experimental design offer depth. However, they are preferred in cases where manipulation is ethical. Hence, there are some examples, which is conducting interviews to explore individual experiences with mental health stigma and analyzing historical documents to understand society social change, changes over time. Here is the research and the some titles which I collect from a book. I was not able to find that pages. So that's all for my side. Thanks so much.